Hello everyone, my name is Kay Woodgate. I'm a movement therapist at Move Beyond, and in today's video I would love to talk to you about breathing, the different dimensions of breathing and how to optimize your own breathing and why it's so important to have it optimized. So I have a lot of people who come to me for classes, one-to-one work, and as people do quite often, it's something about the core that does not work very well. So the core is a combination of muscles that are at the front of our body, which is abdominals, which we tend to think as our core, but that's only part of the story. Because the core also contains muscles at the back of our body, also our diaphragm, our main breathing muscle, and our pelvic floor. So altogether they form the cylinder that during our breathing cycle, as we inhale and exhale, it manages the pressure in our abdominal cavity. So the pressure changes depending on whether we breathe in or out. And that exhale with a decrease of pressure in the belly is where we tend to become weaker, and this is when we need that strength in that core to kind of compress that cylinder correctly to provide beneficial tension at a very deep level to keep our pelvis nice and stable and strong, so that if you think of your pelvis as a bridge, our bridge will be solidly standing on all the proper supports with the proper tension, and then we can do all sorts of movement off that stable bridge, which is how gymnasts, ballerinas, ballet dancers, etc., they can have that range of motion through their limbs and not fall over, if that makes sense. Breathing is the very starting point of this whole process. So breathing is fascinating for that very reason. And lots of people who come to me, they have some issue with their breathing, at least to some extent. And one of the most useful things to realize is how your own breathing is. So there's 3 dimensions to breath. If you have a look at yourself in the mirror, which is really useful to assess, and you take a deep breath in, notice if your shoulders lift up with that inhale and drop down with the exhale. And many people's shoulders do exactly that. Sometimes it's a bit more subtle, sometimes we have neck tension, so you might notice certain muscles and tendons pop out around your neck. Same thing, we're generating that kind of squeezing of the neck in some way, shape or form as we breathe. And this tends to be associated with a little bit of stress breathing, perhaps as well. It's almost like your body is constantly mobilized to create that extra bit of breath capacity, like you're constantly running away from a predator. And very often it's correlated with stiffness, tightness in the neck, maybe a little bit of crunching, certain symptoms like that. So that's one dimension of breath, and lots of people have lots of that neck, high chest breathing. The second dimension of breath is your side ribcage breathing. It's called lateral side to side ribcage breathing. And if you have your hands gently around your ribs like so, or maybe just the thumbs, notice if you're able to expand your ribcage side to side with your breath. And that's quite tricky for some people, but some people are amazing at that. So just notice if you've got that dimension present. The third dimension is the front to back breathing. Useful to see if you're standing in profile. And notice if you're able to breathe into the back of your body, into a hand on your back, and into the front of the rib cage. What tends to happen is people get really puzzled by a request, a suggestion to breathe into the back of the body. And instead, what we try to do is we lift the rib cage up and drop it down with every breath. This is the front to back breathing, which tends to be also troublesome for a few of us. So notice where your preferences lie. And the ideal breath is very negligible into the shoulders. There is a little bit of up and down into the collarbones, but really quite subtle. And then more side to side, more front to back, thinking that 360-degree breathing. Now very often we get so much neck tension we can't let the neck relax. Lots of techniques for dealing with that. Some of it might include massage. Some of it is definitely working on our stress levels to keep things calmer in our life. And sometimes neck tension is a mechanism for the neck to assist the front most of the time, the front of our body or the sides of our body, which is when I start using clever techniques like neurokinetic therapy, and we start figuring out exactly why that neck is tight and that core might be a bit sleepy. Now, also just to let you know, why is high neck breathing really something we ideally need to deal with? So I'll illustrate that to you with a little deflated ball. When our breathing is really optimized, we're able to breathe in quite freely into the lower portions of our rib cage, into the belly, and when we exhale, there is that gentle sense of compression through the tummy muscles, but there is no excess tension, there is no over squeezing anywhere, there's just gentle compression of that cylinder. When we breathe up into the neck excessively, there is actually no natural mechanism to release that breath out. The only thing that body can do is force the exhale out by squeezing much harder with the ribs when you exhale. This is what happens. So we take that breath in and it goes high up into our neck and chest. We then observe this ball, squeeze the lower ribs harder to get that exhale out. Can you see what happens with that ball when we squeeze the exhale out with the lower ribs around here? Can you see that pressure goes out into the bottom portion of the ball and down, right? This is the mechanism through very, very long-term use can create a risk of weakness in the lower belly, can contribute to the increased risk of hernias, and also the pressure pushing down to the pelvic floor can contribute to the feelings of heaviness, issues with the pelvic floor. It is all linked with breathing. Instead of this, we want to have that more uniform core engagement, a much quieter neck, and when we exhale there's a sense of gentle compression of that cylinder from all sides equally, and we definitely don't push the pressure down. So, urging you to observe yourself in the mirror, check the breathing, work to optimize and relax the neck and your stress levels, working to understand whether your neck helps your core. Sometimes we try to engage the abdominals and the neck tenses up. That's a clue. So for example, if you're doing floor work on the floor and you feel that you're doing a curl up or something like this, and your neck really tenses up, that is a clue that you're not really working your tummy. You're creating a deeper pattern with the neck. That needs to be dealt with. So I recommend you get yourself an assessment and start relaxing the neck and optimizing the breathing. And encouraging, in your quiet time, to explore, can you encourage that breath to drop lower into the rib cage, into the back and the sides, and make your whole breathing much calmer, more optimized, to turn on your deep core, to make your pelvis more stable, to relax the neck and let the neck do its necky things as opposed to the breathing things. I hope that was helpful, and I hope that analogy with the ball explains a couple of things to you, perhaps in your own body as well. Let me know if you've got any questions, comment on this video, and we can have a little discussion and maybe I can help you a bit further. So that's Kate Woodgate from Move Beyond, and this is a video about breathing. Have a lovely rest of your day. Bye for now.